Hi folks, I'm Rick Ufford Chase, Mayor of Newport, Vermont, and this is Newport Notes with Rick. I wanted to just do a quick update on the work that the City Council did this past Monday night, the 5th. There were two agenda items that are particularly significant, I think, for the community to know about, and so I just want to review those two items. The first is that the City Council voted to create yet another task force. This one will be called a Task Force on Housing Insecurity, Public Encampments, and Community Safety. The goal with this task force will be to advise the council on developing a strategy to support those who are unhoused in our community and create a policy that employs best practices in the enforcement of rules regarding overnight stays or hanging out in front of or in close proximity to businesses or residences. We're going to be looking in particular, as we work on this set of questions over the next few months, at ways that we can create a strong policy to ensure public safety, create viable, safe options for people who are unhoused, especially during winter months or disaster events, supporting downtown businesses to help them thrive in Newport's designated downtown, creating effective collaboration models to involve all the community partners possible, and developing best enforcement practices so that our police department feels like the community understands what its challenges are and that we have their back. We'll look at similar communities and how to effectively prioritize law enforcement resources. And then finally, considering the links between public safety, lack of affordable housing, human trafficking, addiction, and drug trafficking in our community. I'm looking forward to the work that this task force will do. It's a task that has been on our minds for some time. Our chief of police has been very involved in helping us to develop this recommendation for the council's review, and the council voted unanimously in favor of creating the task force. We will be taking resumes or expressions of interest from members of the community from now until Monday the 19th, when the council will act to establish the first members of that task force. And I expect that it will begin meeting at least twice a month, perhaps more, starting right after the 19th, and our goal will be to have some initial considerations for the council by midsummer. So if you're interested in serving on such a task force, please let me know. You can send an expression of interest through email, along with a resume or any kind of statement about what your experience is that leads you to be a particularly useful member for such a committee. And my email address is rick.uffordchase@newportvermont.org. So that's Rick, R-I-C-K, Uffordchase, UFFORDCHASE, @newportvermont.org. So that was the first item that the council took on that I thought was particularly salient. The other is I wanted to let members of the community know that the council is thinking about all of the variety of big picture questions that we should be asking over the coming months. So we spent quite a bit of time on Monday night getting what some of those items are out on the table so that we could begin to calendar them and know that we will be intentional about taking those items up. So I just wanted to review some of those items for the next few months. Our highest priority right now will be at the May 19th meeting to look at questions around how we manage the long-term accumulated deficit, that is the debt that's been created while operating the water and sewer budgets at a deficit over the last number of years. Hopefully we will have a plan from the Financial Reporting and Fiscal Practices Task Force for the council's consideration on Monday night the 19th. We also hope on Monday night the 19th to have the council consider and hopefully approve a new job description for the financial operations and office administration position that we have been looking to fill for quite some time. In early June, we want to take on the MERP grant. This is a grant that's been given to the city of Newport for municipal, I should have known this one, Municipal Environmental Resource Program, I think it's called. And that grant will help us to do environmental upgrades on some of our key buildings in the city that will lower our utility costs over time and help to improve the environment at the same time. Also, in early to mid-June, we expect to hear back from folks from the fire department. We have agreed that we will look at a proposal that they will create to put together another task force. This one will be to look over the next year at the question of how we should develop the fire department over the next 5 years. Basically a strategic 5-year plan for the development of the fire department. So we'll take that on in June. We also expect that we will have to warn a meeting in late June that will function more like a regular election to consider a bond to deal with potential debt issues that the council will be looking at. I don't know specifics about that yet. Just stay tuned and we'll be back with more information about that. In the month of July, one of the things that's before us is that we will be getting back counsel from our legal attorneys regarding the proposed bylaw changes that our Planning Commission has been working on now for nearly 2 years. And we are excited to be getting those back. Once they are back in our hands, the Planning Commission will take a look at them. Then they will bring them to the council for review. There will be time in there for public review and public comment. And we've hoped to have the new zoning bylaws approved and in place by early fall, certainly by September. Another issue in July is that we want to go back to the personnel policy, revisit what the personnel policy has historically been, what the changes were a little over a year ago that the council made to that policy. We expect to do that by educating the council with help from sister communities about their best practices, with legal advice from our attorneys. We'll be looking at those questions throughout the month of July and then making any adjustments the council feels is necessary. We will also be looking in early August at the question of how appropriations are handled. What does it take to get something on the ballot in March to be considered by the voters for an appropriation, which is basically the voters agreeing that they are willing to be taxed to support a particular kind of activity or organization. And we've had some new interest by organizations that have not historically been in that appropriations list. And so we're going to revisit the policy about what it takes for those organizations to be on the ballot. And then finally, toward the end of August, I expect that we will be also looking at a long-term capital plan, a 5-year capital plan that we need to look at capital expenditures. This has been done traditionally every year. The council will be far more involved this year than it has traditionally been, and we will work together with department heads to look at what they see coming up over the next 5 years for necessary capital expenses. That will lead us, we hope, into a discussion about the best way to manage our budget for the coming fiscal year. So I expect that we will lay out a plan about how the budget will get created, what the timeline will be, who will be involved, when the public will have input, and our hope will be to carry out a process with deliberation throughout the fall so that that budget has been established and even voted on by the council, hopefully by the end of the year or early January at the latest. And that will depend also on working with our auditors to make sure that we get audited reports on our fiscal year 24-25 that will be coming to an end on June 30th this year. It's critically important that we get those audited numbers back to us because that will help us with our budgeting for fiscal year 25-20. We'll be taking on fiscal year 25-26, which we have already approved. We'll be working next fall on the budget for 26-27. And then finally, the last position that I want to mention is that our goal by the end of the year is to have advertised the city manager position with a newly reworked city manager job description, which the community will have plenty of opportunity to add, to give input to. And so my hope would be that certainly by mid to late fall, we will be taking on the question of hiring a city manager and hopefully have someone in position by early in the year 2026. I think that's it in terms of what the council was reviewing. There will be other work, of course, that comes and goes throughout that time. There's plenty of regular work that the council must do. And of course, we also have the relationship with White & Burke, the company that we've hired in Burlington that is working with us to determine the feasibility of a tax increment financing district And if by midsummer we've determined that such an application is feasible, then they will work with us through the fall. And the council will have to be involved in each step of that process to put together an application that will go to the state probably sometime early in 2026. So I think that's it. There's plenty more that we can cover. I apologize that week after week I appear to just be geeking out on council minutia, but these are the things that the council feels are most important, and I really want the opportunity for all of you in the community to know about them and to give your advice about how we should be handling them as well. Council meetings happen every other Monday night. Regular meetings are on the first and third Mondays in the council chambers in the municipal building, starting at 6 p.m. Those meetings have been held to about 2 hours or less each meeting over the last several weeks. And all are welcome, and there's plenty of opportunity to engage during those meetings. And so I'll just repeat finally what I started with, which is that if you have any interest in serving on the proposed task force on housing insecurity, public encampments, and community safety, please reach out to me and let me know sometime in the next week to 10 days at rick.uffordchase@newportvermont.org. Thanks very much. Have a great week.